Hey Kev, let's follow this trail over here. This looks like there might be something waiting down there.
All right. Hey, wait a minute. Do you hear that?
Yeah, I thought it was just me. What the heck is that?
I don't know what that is. Whoa, do you smell that too?
That's unbelievable. Hey, look.
What the?
Hey, look, those branches are moving over there.
What the heck is that?
Holy cow, is that what I think it is? Look at that thing.
Oh my God.
It's a freaking Sasquatch. Welcome to the Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters podcast. I am your host, W.J. Sheehan, author of the series of books Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters, 38 volumes in audiobook, paperback, ebook, and Kindle. There are links to them right on our website, BigfootTerrorInTheWoods.com. Take you where you want to go on Amazon. And hit our shop. A lot of cool merch in there, brothers, so have at it. And now, my brother and co-host, KJ Sheehan. Kev, how are you?
I'm doing great, Bill. How about yourself?
Pretty cool. Had a good day. Off today and tomorrow, and then back to work for till my next stint off.
Yeah, you had a good little stretch there, which is nice.
Yeah, I get them. I take plenty of little... I take my vacation time, right, and I split it up into like 3 or 4 day pieces, and I tie them up with 2 days off.
Cool.
So I get like 30 days a year. And so just say I divided that into threes. That's 10 5-day vacations.
Very nice. You get a little extra.
Yeah, so... And then I still have my regular days off. The other days that aren't tied into anything.
Awesome.
There's
Super
benefits.
Cool.
Yeah, there's benefits, you know.
Super cool.
So, how about I'll dive into this account here tonight?
All right, let's go.
Yeah, I pulled this out of the archives. One of the most incredible accounts. A bunch of guys involved in it. And... it came to me by way of Lucas McMillan, a resident of Richmond, Virginia. And just listen in as Lucas relays to you and I this fantastic tale from the woods of Appalachia. During the early 80s, while living in the region of Richmond, I had more than a few associates, be they neighbors or coworkers, with whom I regularly hunted. Between the bunch of us who, by the way, rarely hunted together at one time in a group, we had spent most of our time hunting in our sister state, West Virginia, in and around the rolling hills and mountains of Appalachia. So much time had we spent individually and partnering up on different days in that region that during the summer of '82, I had decided to look into the availability of a small house, perhaps, and a piece of land to be used as a lodge for me and the other men. It was during the course of a number of weeks that I had, via telephone, attempted to make contact with some realtors in the hopes of finding what I was looking for. I remember the day exactly because it was my son's birthday, May 2nd. The phone rang. It was a gentleman returning my call from the previous day whose name was Jesse Long. On the phone, he sounded like a very old man, and he was quite certain that if he didn't have anything within his inventory, he could most certainly find something to my liking. The following weekend, I took a drive to West Virginia with my partner, Bill, and met up with Jesse at his office. His office happened to be an enclosed porch attached to a very old plantation home, which just happened to be the same place where he and his family lived. As we knocked on the door and he opened it, I was amazed to see that he wasn't old at all, but rather a young man of 45, who had the deepest, most gravelly voice that I've ever heard in my life. he invited us in, and after pouring us each a glass of sweet tea, he said to us, "So, you boys are looking for a hunting cabin, are you?" We told him all the reasons why, based mainly on how much we hunted and where, after which he paused for a moment and said this: "You know, fellas, it's one thing to walk into an area and hunt for a day. It's quite another thing to stay in an area when the lights go out." When he said that, Bill and I kind of chuckled while glancing at each other, after which I said to Jesse, "What makes you say that?" He looked at me square in the eye and said, "There are critters in them there woods that a man doesn't necessarily want to run into, with or without a gun in his hand." To me, this was the most bizarre beginning to a sales pitch that I had ever heard of. If I didn't know any better, it sounded to me like he was trying to talk me out of it before I had even got far into it. He stood up out of his chair, and then he said to us, "I think I have just the place for you. It's about an hour's ride from here, so let's get a move on." The three of us piled into a '65 Cadillac Coupe de Ville that was in mint condition and headed off to see what he had to show us. As we approached a gravel cutoff of a road, I quite literally had no idea where it was we had traveled to. I think I saw maybe two structures, if you could call them houses, in the past 30 minutes. So we were heading into this gravel road that was one car wide, winding back through and into the woods for almost 10 minutes before we broke out into an opening, in the middle of which sat a small log cabin on a stone foundation. We pulled up to the front, got out of the car as Jesse walked around to the trunk and opened it. Bill and I were already walking around the cabin when Jesse came walking up and handed me a gun. He said to me, "Let's go for a walk." Now, I'm going to ask you one simple question, Bill, and only one. When was the last time you were handed a gun when looking at a home? He handed me a .45 caliber pistol and had me put a holster on me and himself with another similar handgun in his. I said to him, "What is this all about, Jesse?" Let me get into this here. He simply said, "I will advise you both here and now to never travel in these parts unarmed if you value your life and limbs." He then said that it wasn't the people we had to worry about, but the critters. The cabin sat on the edge of what appeared to be an old farmstead that hadn't been plowed or used in 100 years. We began to walk out into this field, or what was left of it, heading towards one of the thick wood lines. When we had reached the edge of the field, we turned around and looked back in the direction of the cabin, amazed at the vastness of the property and the density of the surrounding forests. Jesse pointed in one direction and said, "About a quarter mile back into that woods, there's a clear running brook that runs right through a hollow on your land, where all the bears, deer, and boogers go for a drink." I looked at him, and Bill looked at me. I said to him, "What the hell is a booger?" He said, "I figured I might as well tell you two fellas because you seem like two nice men. In these parts, we have what is known as the hairy man, or booger, by the local folk. They are said to be many a tall, formidable creature, covered from head to toe by hair and muscle, which have roamed around in these parts since before the white men came." Well, we talked more about this, as you would well imagine, Bill, And as we walked back to the cabin, when the conversation turned into that of the cabin having no power and only a well pump outside, I walked over and grabbed the handle of the pump, and after a number of attempts, nothing came out of it. Jesse said it hadn't been used in so long that it may have lost its prime, but that if we were interested in the property, he would have it working for us as part of the deal. The front door had a huge padlock on it, and each of the 6 windows on the cabin were covered in 2 layers of chicken wire, which almost entirely obscured the glass from view. Jesse said that it was needed to keep unwanted visitors from gaining access to the cabin. Because when you blow the candle out, fellas, you can't see the hand in front of your face. He opened the padlock and we went inside to what was basically 3 tiny rooms with plank floors, and one had a door on it. There was a metal basin on a steel stand that I guess could be used for washing up, and a stone fireplace set in one wall. There was also no insulation, no interior walls to speak of, or refinements of any kind to be seen. This was as bare bones could be, and then some. Jesse said to us, "So, what do you two gents think of this place as a starting point for our house hunt?" I told him that Bill and I were going to step outside and have a little private talk if he didn't mind, and that we'd be right back in. The asking price for the land and the cabin, I might add, was $4,700, including 27 acres and use of the surrounding land for hunting and fishing. Bill and I were in agreement. The boys would flip over this as a hunting lodge. But both of us found this whole booger thing to be really unsettling, especially the way it had been told to us, first by handing me a gun as we then went for a walk. The long and short of it was we took the house for $3,900, with the well pump being made ready for use upon our signing of the deal. 4 weeks after the deal had closed, myself, 2 other guys had gone to spend the weekend doing a little small game hunting in the fields and the surrounding woods. Really, it was more of a reconnaissance mission in order to better understand what exactly we had at our disposal in the surrounding woods. The first thing we decided to do, after having stocked the cabin with gas lights, candles, cans of kerosene, and the like, was to find a creek Jesse had spoken of. We had walked into the woods for maybe a quarter of a mile when we came upon the site of some old moonshining still. Having never made a drop of shine, we all knew what it was we were looking at. It appeared to have been abandoned completely intact, relatively speaking. Although with everything, with the exception of the copper, had completely rotted away, this entire still seemed to have been just walked away from. We thought that whoever had been running it may have died and it was left there where it stood, abandoned for years, until we had discovered it. About 100 feet away from the still, there was the creek, which was, of course, the reason why the still had been built there. The creek was beautiful, the water fresh and clear. We were all kind of soaking it in when Steve started to point out all the tracks that were alongside the creek. They were indicative of just how many animals were taking advantage of it as a water source. The 3 of us were now walking along with our heads down, examining the tracks, when a loud, prolonged howl began to sound from deep within the woods. All of us kind of locked eyes and virtually said the same thing. What the heck was that? This howl was loud, lasting almost 15 or 20 seconds before it ended, when everything became suddenly very silent. Being in one accord as to what we had heard, we agreed it must have been a mountain lion, none of us having ever heard one for ourselves. Having brushed off the howl now, we began to once again scour the banks of the creek, looking at the tracks when Steve said, "Check this out, guys." The three of us gathered around where Steve stood pointing. We were looking down at what was 2 full and 1 partial track in the soft mud of a gigantic, bare, human-like foot, one of which was virtually perfect and couldn't have been hours old, if that, in my opinion. Our estimation was approximately 20 inches long and very wide, and the great or big toe was kind of hooked toward the inside of the foot. I must say to you that Steve was not privy to the conversations which Bill and I had with Jesse about the booger and the hairy man. But I knew as I looked at Bill that he and I were on the same line of thinking. That line of thinking being that the howl and the footprint belonged to the same creature, which was in fact what Jesse had called a booger. When the sun set, we had been in the cabin for about an hour. Having brought some tools, we removed the chicken wire from the windows and had actually managed to open 3 of them, breaking a panel of glass in the process. For the time being, we were taking care of our business in a ditch outside until such time as we could do an outhouse renovation in the future. After the sun had well set, we stepped out of the front door onto what was the porch, and we couldn't even see the truck, which was parked only 20 feet away. When I say to you, Bill, I couldn't see it, I am not kidding. For not even a glimmer of a piece of chrome could be seen on the truck's body. It was so black that it was palpable. I had never experienced anything like it before in my life. Total and absolute darkness. That night, having bombed the entire cabin with bug spray before we hiked to the creek, we settled down for what we hoped would be a good night's rest. We had hung a kerosene lantern from the ceiling and were sleeping on bags and fold-up cots on the floor. The position of my head was such that it was facing in the direction of the window pane that had been broken while trying to open the windows during the day. It was late when I had awoke from my sleep. As I looked at my watch, I read 3:05. The odd thing was that a horrible stench was wafting now through the missing glass panel in the window. And I had heard the water's pump handle move up and down, maybe 2 or 3 times outside. The pump was about 30 feet from the cabin, located just beyond the only section of the cabin where there was no window to look out and see it from where I was sleeping. Not that I could have seen it without a flashlight, having just told you how dark it was. But whatever was moving the handle couldn't see me either as I got up. I crept over and poked Steve, who was shocked to see me looking down at him, and he said to me, "What's wrong?" I whispered for him to listen, telling him something was pumping water from the well. As we both sat quietly, the handle of the well began to creak again. We both put our boots on and grabbed our lights and our guns. Bill was actually sleeping in a room which could be seen from the viewpoint of the pump when outside. Steve and I crept low and slow across the floor. When we reached the door, we had our lights on facing the door and burst out of the door, turning to the corner of the cabin with our guns in hand. As we rounded the corner, our lights met with the back of a gigantic, hair-covered monster fleeing into the darkness. It was only maybe 2 or 3 seconds that we both had seen it, but see it we did. Steve fired 2 slugs from his shotgun into the darkness, and then all went quiet. Bill had jumped up at the sound of gunfire and started shouting, "Where the hell are you guys?" We told him we were outside, and when he made it out for himself, we told him that we had just fired 2 slugs at a monster. The 3 of us then all gathered back together inside the cabin and began to iron out the details of what had just happened. Steve and I had a clear look at the rear of this beast, even though it was brief. We were in agreement that it was at least twice the height of the well pump, which was itself over 4 feet tall, and it seemed to be some 5 to 6 feet wide at its upper back. During the remainder of the night, none of us had slept a wink, and we had told Steve all as it pertained to our first day's meeting with Jesse and what he had told us about the booger and hairy man of the woods. Only now, Steve had seen the booger, and Bill hadn't, being still asleep when we ran out the front door in pursuit of the beast. At first light, we were out the door and looking around by the pump for evidence of what had taken place during the night. There were dozens of deep impressions made in the damp soil surrounding the well, and they were exactly the same as those we had seen by the creek during the day. This thing was obviously watching and knew the sound of the creaking well's handle, which we had been using. 1 second. It was familiar with it, as it was with it as being a water source, and it was investigating the fact that it was now working again. Whatever the case may be, this booger knew how to work the pump, which to me was very unusual behavior for an animal. That day we packed all of our gear up and headed back to Jesse's office. When we arrived, he was there and invited us in, as we immediately began to tell him of all that had transpired the day and the night before. He wasn't at all surprised. He was shocked at what we had experienced, yes, and how quickly it had occurred. He said usually it takes these boogers a good amount of time to warm up to the people and their activities before they begin to make their presence known. But this critter had come in on you guys like a flood the first day you arrived. I told him I wouldn't be keeping the property and asked if he would handle putting it back up for sale, to which he agreed. As of this day, Bill, 2017, the property has still not been sold, and I haven't had so much as one offer of $1 for it. Since that day's encounter, we've never gone back to the land, and I have written it off as a complete loss. Pretty wild, huh, Kebs?
Tell you what, all I'm thinking is I hope Jesse's not his realtor.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you.
Guy's like scaring them away. Rightly so, of course, but still.
Yeah, like he said, imagine that you go and look at a piece of property, and before you look at what was a house, a shack, the guy opens the trunk and hands you a holster and a big handgun.
Don't be afraid.
What the hell? Who are my neighbors?
Nothing to worry about here. Just make sure you're cocked there.
Keep it loaded.
Here's another set around.
Oh, my God.
In case you have to reload.
Appalachia, that area, it's funny, too, because at work just yesterday, one of the girls said to me, "Hey, I just found out that the Appalachians run from down south up to Canada." And I'm like, this lady is like 65 years old.
You're like, did you ever hear of the Appalachian Trail?
Yeah, I'm like, is this a revelation to you? I don't get it, man. When you think people aren't stupid, think again, man. I'm telling you, man. Look, Kev, you know how work can be. I get along with people because I have to.
Sure.
But this is one of those ladies where I couldn't be rid of her soon enough with the stupid stuff she says. And that was just another in a long string. Hey, the Appalachian Mountains run from down south all the way up to Canada. Oh, my God.
It's all good. But I mean, of course, you have a lot of different accounts about the booger, hanging out in hollers in West Virginia, right? I mean, just it's classic location for the Bigfoot, almost as classic as like the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, and you know something, Kev? It was Philip, my good buddy Philip, who really brought it home to me, going back a few years now, of the usage of the term hairy man. Because he used to use it all the time when we started talking together on a regular basis. The hairy man, the hairy
Right.
man, the hairy
Right.
man. So, but I think it was Philip that claimed that in some cases, the hairy man could actually be like a feral human.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, because you have the tales too, Bill. The wild man.
And same thing. The hairy
Yeah,
man
hairy
is this
man,
wild man.
Like I think typically when we say hairy man, of course, because I use it a lot as a synonym to Bigfoot or Sasquatch.
Yeah.
But, historically, hairy man was more like, a man covered in hair, like, some type of feral human.
Yeah, and people claim they've run into this feral human, like, chomping on a piece of raw
yeah, and I believe
deer
that.
meat.
The wild man and stuff, I believe those tales. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt about it.
I think Boone, as in Daniel, and I also think Davy Crockett. I know somebody will correct me out there if I'm wrong. I think both of them had writings about encounters with what we call the Bigfoot.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I covered one of them.
Yeah.
You're putting me on the spot here. I
I'm
want to say it
just
was
saying.
I want to say it was Davy Crockett, but I could be wrong.
Okay. I mean, I could be wrong too. I'm just putting it out there. And as usual, folks, you're part of this. If you have anything to say or if you've seen anything, just go to BigfootTerrorInTheWoods.com and hit the contact button and chime in with us. We welcome it. But yeah, Kev, how about this thing using the pump? It had the ability to see and do or copy or mimic what it obviously had peered them out as doing from out of the woods. They didn't even know it. Do you think it just walked up and...
No, I think it watched and it learned. And the good news, to simplify it is, this creature has posable thumbs.
Yeah.
So it makes it a lot easier for them to copy it. So,
Yeah, or even light a Macanudo cigar. All right, buddy boy.
just
What are you
lean over
doing?
the fire.
Yeah, what are you doing in my field? You got a light? I can let you live if you don't mind me hanging around here.
As long as you got another one of these Macanudos, because it'll probably take me about 15 minutes to smoke it. And
Why
I'm
don't
going to
you-
get cranky if I don't have another one to light.
Why don't you give me that Zippo and a can of Ronson lighter fluid?
And I happen to see that you got a pocket of them in your coat there. So, by the way, I might just take the coat if it fits me.
Too funny, Kev. Great account, though, huh? I mean, come on.
Really good. Really good. West Virginia is just fantastic.
So, what do we have in our cryptids in the news and other oddities segment?
Yeah, so we're going to go on a journey tonight together, Bill, because this tale is still unfolding.
Wow.
So we're going to go to the country of Turkey,
Okay.
to Göbekli Tepe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know this place, right?
Yeah, well, it was actually discovered, it's got to be over 10 years ago when I first heard about this
Well,
place.
it was initially discovered in the 60s,
Right.
but it was thought just to be like a place of worship, a little bit like Stonehenge in the UK. But then about 10 years ago, maybe 10 to 20 years ago, it became more famous because they started to realize, like, wait a minute, people lived here.
Yeah, and that place was completely buried in the sand.
Yes.
You couldn't even see it when they first came
No.
to that place.
No, I think they discovered it with, like sonar, LIDAR, looking into the ground. And even now, they've discovered something like 6 or 8 of these large domed structures and they dug them up, maybe 6 of them, but they think there's like 35 of them.
Did they find anything in the dome structures?
Well, the most famous thing about them is these pillars. They have these really large pillars that are carved, and they have like reliefs of humans and other strange creatures carved into them.
Boy, can we get our hands on any? Have we have photographs available?
There's
of them?
photographs, yeah. Like if you go to Google, and I'll try to put a link on our website, BigfootTerrorInTheWoods.com, under episode 318.
What kind of creatures? Did you see any?
I didn't see any, but definitely it's like some of the column tops and stuff look human. But they do mention other creatures, like serpents and stuff like that.
It's always a puzzler to me.
And these like limestone pillars inside all of these enclosures are like circular enclosures, and they think they were enclosures. And they have these massive T-shaped limestone pillars inside of them. And some of them are up to 18 feet tall and weigh about 16 tons each.
Yeah. Kev, this has always been a puzzler to me. Now, look, I know man has an imagination vivid at times. So we can think up and make up anything we want if we have the ability out of clay, or stone, or wood, or painted, or draw a cave drawing. But it always puzzles me the usage of certain figures in what would be considered decorative or artwork going back as far as you could think of. Like you said, serpents. You know how I feel about totem poles, where why would you have a trout, an eagle, a bear, and then a hairy man head?
Yeah.
Why the use of serpents? Why the figures of gargoyles? Are they intending them to be demons? Are they working off of descriptions that people have had of seeing them? Or are they completely imaginative? Are the serpents on these colonnades, with the floral work? And I'm visualizing what they must look like. Were they why a serpent? You know what I mean? It's kind of like a creepy thing. Yeah. Was it out of reverence for it, or did they believe it was a deity? A serpent.
Yeah, there had to be something behind it, but I don't have the answer for you.
Yeah, no, it's just conjecture.
But what's really interesting, so these structures are believed to date back to about 9,500 BCE. So really long time ago, longer ago than they thought that there were settlements, settled humans living in a single place. At the time, they thought they were all hunter-gatherers back then.
Yeah, well, obviously, after you find this structure, these guys were not, they may have been hunters and gatherers, but they also were able to build a pretty complex place.
No, but it looks like they live there, because they find tools, they find bones, animal bones.
Yeah.
Like they're sitting there cooking and eating. And, it's a walled structure. And they think that these large columns, or one theory is that they may have supported the roof.
Okay.
Right? So
and that's a technological thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Building a roof that doesn't cave in on you,
Yeah, no doubt about it.
What else fascinated me? These old buildings that had like the keystone supporting two angled slabs of marble over a doorway that's been standing for 2,000 years or something,
Right.
That always is fascinating to me.
Yeah. And one of the most interesting theories there's a whole bunch of theories, and some of them aren't interesting, to be candid, about the civilization that might have lived here. But one of the theories, and it's a bit of a prominent theory, I think you could say, is that the legacy we're seeing there is from a civilization that we lost, or that was wiped out by some type of global cataclysm.
And everybody just got blown out.
Well, yeah, like a comet impact around the end of the last ice age. And then the theory is that, the whole place was pretty much wiped out, but some of the survivors of this cataclysm passed on their knowledge to the existing hunter gatherer societies, who then built and perhaps rebuilt places like Göbekli Tepe.
That is a weird theory.
I know, but it's like, all of these civilizations, everybody, not everybody, but groups of folks have theories, and this is a pretty prominent theory, like I said. And the proponents of this theory point to the sophistication of the architectural structure, and this structure had a lot of, or believes to have had a lot of astronomical alignments. So that's evidence that the folks there were far beyond what a typical hunter-gatherer society would possess.
When you say celestial alignment, it makes me believe that these may have been some ancestors of what we call the Egyptians, because their pyramids were in alignment with constellations.
Yep.
There was a lot going on there, and we have no answers. We just speculate.
Right.
But you think about these rather ornate and apparently well-built structures. They had good tools.
Yeah.
And good knowledge.
Yeah, and they link, some of these central pillars and some of the carvings on the pillars. They align and depict what might be some of the rising of specific stars like Sirius or the constellations of Orion or Cygnus.
Yeah.
As they would have appeared in the sky around 12,000 years ago.
Amazing how many times Orion comes into play and how prominent it still is to the eye today.
Yeah, well, it's such a distinctive constellation.
Right. Very bright stars, well marked.
3 in a line.
Yeah, it's very, and you can imagine what that looked like over there on a dark night.
Oh, I can tell you how it looks out on the coast here in North Carolina on a dark night.
Yeah, really.
It stands out like diamonds.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me when I sit in a planetarium and you're looking at the dome lit up when all the lights are out. Yeah. Everything is just pristine.
Spectacular.
That they want you to see,
Yeah, I was disappointed, just digressing a minute. Last week out here at the coast, we were supposed to have, I forget what they called it. It wasn't a new moon. It was like a black moon or some term I never heard before. But basically, the moon wouldn't be visible that night, and it was supposed to be the perfect series of nights to see the Milky Way. And we can get a good look at the Milky Way down here on the beach in the dark when there's no moon. It's clear. Yeah. But unfortunately, I was ready, but it was like raining like the Dickens both nights. Yeah.
When I go out like to Shinnecock, I could see the Milky Way, but not like you're going to see it down there.
Yeah.
But it is, you can spy it out. It just looks like a cloud.
Well, yeah, and there's a trick, too. Like for those of you out there, including you, Bill, with an iPhone, look up how to take a picture of the Milky Way with your iPhone. There's a way to set it on like a 20-second exposure. And you basically, click it off. You lay it on something flat, click it off with one of the side buttons, and make sure you let it sit for like 25 seconds, and you will get some amazing photographs of the Milky Way.
Wow, that's interesting.
It looks like it came from, the Hubble telescope or something.
Wow. Isn't that cool? I'll do it, man.
Yeah, I did it when we were out in French Polynesia a couple of years ago out in the Pacific because it's dark as anything. Yeah. And someone showed me a picture they took the night before. I was like, what the heck? Where'd you get that? And they're like, man, you just lay your phone on the ground here. It's so dark, aimed up at the sky, and do this long exposure. And it's like shocking how good it is.
Wow. I'm going to do it, Kev.
Do it. Now, by the way, they weren't doing that at Göbekli Tepe. I don't think.
No, just a side note. And I guarantee you that a lot of people listening are turned on by what you just said, as I am, because I'm going to check that out.
Oh, it's super cool.
Yeah, so the next moonless, we got about a half moon now, so it's going to be a while before I get to the
Well, but we're
new
heading
moon.
into the right season too, because it's generally clearer on those cold nights.
Yeah,
In the wintertime.
Absolutely.
Less clouds, and of course, you got to be braver to go out there, But
well, that's true, Kev. So great show thus far. And what do we have in our listener mail today?
yeah, so we got our email coming in from Wade from Woodstock, New York, home of Woodstock, the big rock and roll festival.
Okay.
And, Wade appropriately starts it out with, yeah, with 5 exclamation points. He says, you guys rock, and WJ, you're going to love that 61 SG reissue. And I know you do love it, Bill. We were talking about that earlier before we started recording.
Yep.
I love the show, and the new merchandise is outrageous. Thanks for doing what it takes these many years. That's right, Wade, 7 of them to be precise. And he says, do you remember the first interview you ever did related to a Bigfoot sighting and or encounter, as you put it? Thanks for all you both do, and I love my new hat, Wade from Woodstock, New York.
Well, Kev, it's funny Wade says that because the last episode we recorded, was that released yet, or that's yet to come?
Yet to come.
Okay.
But when people listen
folks,
to it, of course, they're going to listen to it before they listen to this one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Folks, and Wade, that was story number 1 in volume number 1, the Michigan Upper Peninsula encounter.
Yeah.
And I just went through that. Kevin and I did it in the last show, which you'll be able to hear. And I do remember it. It's, Kev, there are hundreds and hundreds of accounts. Not all of them made it into a book.
Right.
And I explained that to you before, that some of these people, and no offense to the people, but not everybody is a good communicator, And some people are telling you stories and they're all over the place. And I try to be a good note taker. And on many occasions, Kev, I've asked people, could you please do me a favor? When you have the time, could you just kind of hunt and peck on your keyboard and try to get down timelines, specifics for me, that I could read through it and kind of make something out of it? Oh, yeah, we could do that. I haven't had one person do it yet.
Yeah, well, that's understandable to me. I've said that before. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I guess, human nature.
Well, it's hard. Everybody's got their own thing they got to do. But great podcast, Bill, this week. I love the account, and I love the initial chatter about this exciting site in Turkey. And folks, if you know something about it, please write in, contact us at BigfootTerrorInTheWoods.com, and please give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast player. We certainly appreciate it, and we love hearing from all of you.
Yeah, folks, and if you should find yourself maybe alone in the woods with your iPhone after you figure out how to do a time delay picture of the Milky Way, perhaps something approaches you out of the woods unexpectedly. Remember Jesse handing the men the guns. You best remember one thing, my friends. Always carry more gun than you think you're going to need. Sleep tight.